Welcome in. Hail to the podcast, brought to you by Maize Blue Review. We have been gone for a week, left some of you hanging accidentally a few days ago. We apologize. Hope you are with us now. Glad to be back. We have a loaded show, obviously. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL draft. Has been a week since Michigan had a draft high and a program record, 13 players selected in the NFL draft. We'll recap that a little bit, talk about some of our favorite picks. And then, of course, J.J. McCarthy, still the story of the draft for Michigan football, landing in Minnesota. And then we'll get into Josh has some post-spring, early summer, a Henschke bomb, loaded intel on the football team heading into the summer. We'll go through some bullet points.
I did again. I'm trying to share it. And
this is what happens when we've been gone for a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I paused for a second because I've done that before too. It's like, wait, what did I do? But yeah, we will get into that loaded intel. And Dusty May is in fact cooking the Michigan basketball roster. A lot of the commits that we expected to happen have happened. There are still a seat or two available. We will discuss that, the way the roster's kind of taking shape, what we think the lineup might look like, and how good can this team be as we start to kind of set expectations moving forward. I'm going to introduce you to my boys in a moment here, but first, our publisher, insider, Intel insider and publisher. There we go. See, it's been a while. I haven't even done it right.
One of those things.
Yeah, Mr. Josh Henschke with a word on our loyal sponsor from day one. If you want to go ahead and talk to us.
Yep. I just want to talk to you about my friend Wes Romberger at My Perfect Franchise. Would you like to escape corporate America for good? Maybe you'd like to start a business on the side and keep your corporate gig. Wes can help. Wes is a franchise consultant as well as a business owner and can help you find a franchise that fits your skill set, financial requirements, how much time you have to commit, and more. A franchise is a business startup and operations kit, perfect for those with general business skills, but who may not have a specific knowledge on starting and running a small business. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. You can reach him by phone at 512-970-7478. Again, that's 512-970-7478, or see him on the web at myperfectfranchise.net/aboutwest.
Appreciate that. Like I said, he has been a day one for us, sponsored our subscriber thread inside the den as well. So yeah, you see the
this comment. It's accurate. It's very accurate.
Yeah. You do have some of the fastest growing hair I think I've ever seen, Brock.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like it grows quickly. I could be wrong.
He's got a little bit of mutant hair going on there.
How are you doing, Brock? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. And real quick, congratulations.
Yes.
Mr. College graduate. While Brock has been our do-it-all and attending every football game and staying up late to watch hockey or volleyball or whatever other random sport we put him on, he has also been a full-time student working towards this degree. So, Brock, congratulations, brother. You deserve it. Hope you enjoyed. During the draft, we had to tell him, like, he's checking in, like, hey, blah, 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 got picked. We're like, dude, just go enjoy your day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was waiting in line, lined up with my cap and gown, and I saw Trevor Keegan got picked by the Eagles. And
you were in line when you sent that to me?
Yeah. I was getting ready to, like, walk out into the graduation ceremony. So it was a lot of fun.
The man does not stop working.
I enjoy it. It's all good. But yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate all the love, and yeah, college is over. And so on to some other stuff that doesn't involve writing papers and doing kind of pointless assignments.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I kind of shared this on the board. I am slightly envious of you. I took 7 years to graduate because I had no idea what I wanted to do and was screwing around, and you may not know what you want to do, and you can still change your mind, but the things you do, you are way ahead of the curve, man.
You said do.
Trying to say something nice, and Josh has to make a poop joke.
You said no. I wasn't the one who said do.
Fair enough. All right, but no, I'm so impressed with you. Like I said, when I kept trying to buy you a drink in Nebraska, and you had to finally tell me you weren't even 21. I was shocked. So no, I'm very proud of you, dude. Keep it up. All right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. I appreciate
it. And for those of you who know me, I am going to be extra giddy on this show. I know no one cares, but I have to say this out loud. I have been a McLaren fan, F1. If you know me, I'm a big F1 fan, McLaren specifically, since I was a little kid. The greatest driver of all time, Ayrton Senna. We celebrated his life this weekend, 30 years since he tragically passed away. And my favorite driver for my favorite team, Lando Norris, won the race in Miami today. And I don't know. I'm telling you, Michigan National Championship, obviously. But, like, for those of you that know how good Max Verstappen has been in F1, for Lando to win on pace and merit today, just an awesome experience. Miami was a great host, great whatever. So if you are an F1 fan, I hope you understand. If not, sorry, but it's been a while. I do have a beverage with me today. That's how happy I am. So if I'm smiling, that's why. All right, let's talk about the NFL draft. Michigan does not break their record. I don't want to say surprisingly. We did say we thought it would come down to some of the offensive linemen at the back end of the draft that ended up being undrafted free agents. I will say I was surprised with how late a lot of guys went. We'll get into that. Brock and I, while covering this draft, of course, was it 3 times Michigan had because they had the 2 in the row with Sainers still.
Yeah.
And then 3, and then that blitz at the end of the 7th round. We're trying to push all these articles out.
If you want to get real technical, I think it was 4 back-to-backs because you had Sainristil and Jenkins in the 2nd round, and then a string of 3 in a row is 2 back-to-backs.
Fair enough.
And then later on in who was it? Harrell and
I don't have them in front of me.
The end, but I think they had 4 back-to-backs.
Jenkins and Sainer still, and then Roman and Corum and Zinter. That was the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then did any of the 7th rounders go back-to-back? Yes, Harrell and Cornelius were back-to-back.
Okay.
And Henderson was right before that. Yeah, so we try to be ahead, behind the scenes, behind the curtain. We obviously pre-write a lot of stuff that we know that's going to happen, plug in, had some but we still have to make the changes. And oh my God, just blitz. It was crazy. But anyway, let's get into it. The story going into the draft was obviously the lightning rod of JJ McCarthy. The Vikings' interest in him felt like either the worst kept secret in sports or a smokescreen of sorts. Turned out the smokescreen was the New York Giants, which, if you want to be a poorly run franchise, here you go. You waste all this time trying to play games to get somebody to trade up to take JJ because you actually want Drake May. You show your cards by trying to trade to number 3. You don't get your guy. Now your quarterback knows you were trying to get a different one. You don't add a quarterback, and then you draft a wide receiver, which great quarterbacks need great wide receivers. I don't think bad quarterbacks become great quarterbacks because you give them a great receiver. The Giants should know this already, but we'll see. I like Malik Neighbors as a player, but I just thought, what an incredible botch job trying to be all cute with JJ. So the Vikings, now knowing what the Giants are doing, end up waiting till 11, have to jump up to 10 to get him. But JJ McCarthy goes to the Minnesota Vikings. Josh, on surface, it just seems like such a great fit. A lot of, like JJ said, a lot of quarterbacks wanted to go there for obvious reasons. You've got decent weapons, starting with Justin Jefferson already. O'Connell comes from the Sean McVay tree, which for JJ means play action pass, short and intermediate passes, right? A system he's going to be pretty familiar with and should excel in. And then Minnesota, especially the hockey state and him being a hockey kid, the Midwest, just seems like a really good fit. But anyway, how did you feel about JJ? Not going top 5 against some smoke screen there with the Giants, end up going 10. But other than being a Lions fan and now having to face McCarthy, how do you feel about him with the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really surprised he didn't go top 5. It kind of, this is going to sound bad, but not at the same time. Like, it kind of felt like there was a little bit of like Will Levis type of thing to it, but obviously he wasn't going to drop like 4 rounds in the process, because I think he was he like a 3rd or 4th round pick, Will Levis, or something?
Second.
He was a second? Yeah. Well, he wasn't going to drop that far, but it kind of felt like
people were talking about him being the number 2 pick like the day before the draft.
Yeah.
The CJ Stroud hate was unbelievable last year.
Yeah, I agree. And not necessarily, I guess, manufactured hype, but I think there was a lot of it, perhaps maybe overhyped a little bit heading into the draft, but whatever. He's a top 10 pick. It's no big deal anymore. But I think Minnesota's the perfect fit for him. I think you're talking about a Midwest state Just a slow pace, like just not a hustle and bustle type of thing, like a New York. The media is going to love him. The fans are going to love him. As a Lions fan, it is what it is. You're going to have to deal with him. You just hope that he sucks twice a year, and hopefully not a third time if they have to see him in the playoffs or for whatever reason. But I think, Minnesota's obviously got to pay Jefferson here. Otherwise someone else is absolutely going to, but I think you're setting him up, TJ Hawkinson too. I mean, there's just a lot of really good weapons, and it's just a really good fit. O'Connell is a really good quarterbacks guy. So I guess from that kind of multi-pronged thing, I guess, you're looking at a really good situation for JJ, for his future. And you're probably looking at him as a day one starter too. I mean, maybe you say, all right, well, we'll play Sam Darnold for a little bit just to see how it goes. And, they might be able to get away with that for a little while if they really value JJ developing, in his first year. But long term, I think Minnesota and we've been pretty open about saying, Minnesota is probably the best place for him to go. And lo and behold, they move up a spot to grab him. I think he's going to do really well there. The people are going to love him. Fans are going to love him. He's going to do a lot for the community. And, it's a good football community too. I mean, you don't really hear much about, Minnesota football much, but they've got loyal fans there who are really going to.
Minneapolis is a great city too.
Yeah, it is.
It's a great city.
Absolutely is.
Brock, first Michigan quarterback selected in the first round since Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. And totally deserving. I mean, this was a guy, he was probably one of the more polarizing prospects in the draft. A lot of people said all he did was hand the ball off and didn't do a whole lot at Michigan, wasn't asked to do a whole lot. But I totally agree with what you guys said. I think Minnesota was the perfect landing spot for him. It's funny when you're covering the team on a weekly basis and around these guys so much, you want what's best for him at the next level. And I found myself polling for McCarthy to end up in Minnesota just because of, like you guys have talked about, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, who came over from the Packers, right? They have so much on offense that he can work with. And I was sitting there watching the draft and I saw the Giants at 6, like you were talking about, Trevor. I said, please don't take JJ at 6.
Yeah.
Just let him fall. And they took Neighbors. I was honestly expecting for Minnesota to trade up to 4 and grab him there. I was kind of surprised he wasn't a top 5 pick, but they got
like I said, the Giants showed their cards. They wanted May.
Yeah.
And once that happened, the Vikings were like, we don't have to move up anymore.
Yeah.
It's just,
I was a little surprised they traded up with the Jets, but I guess after what Atlanta did in drafting Kirk Cousins' successor, I think Minnesota maybe was a little worried the Jets were thinking about doing the same thing, but
I think they were worried about the Broncos jumping them, and then Sean Payton. Oh my God, if anybody loves Sean Payton more than Sean Payton, trying to play off like, oh yeah, I tricked the Vikings. What do you get from them trading up? You didn't get any extra picks. You took Bo Nix. We're going to take him anyway. What are you talking about? Like, what a weird flex that was by him. But yeah, I think it was similar to like when the Bears traded up one spot for Trubisky, which LOL in retrospect, but it wasn't about San Francisco. It was somebody else maybe jumping up. But yeah. Oh God, there was just so many moments in that draft with teams where I'm like, I hate how it's gotten out of control I love mock drafts and I love roster building and I love talking about what teams might do what and where players could go. But we've gone to this another level where we're projecting people's careers out and labeling these dudes, the next Brady's or the next bums from the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild to me because all the same people that were very wrong about CJ Stroud last year pay no repercussions and get to talk out their butt again this year and say things like, well, Michigan didn't trust JJ to throw the ball. Jim Harbaugh called him the greatest quarterback to play at Michigan College. Obviously, we know what Brady did in the future, but the greatest quarterback to play at Michigan. You think he didn't trust him to throw the ball? Like, just absolutely asinine. There was this stat. I'm going to see if I can get it up real quick, and then we'll move on. Ball knowers, dude. 2023 quarterbacks by first half passing attempts minus screen passes. Among the top quarterbacks selected, McCarthy, Drake May, Jane Daniels, and Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy had the most down the field first half passing attempts. He didn't throw a bunch until the fourth. He didn't play in the fourth quarter, 2 snaps in Rutgers, and then he didn't play again until Maryland? Like, I just don't get it. They're like, well, we haven't ever seen him lead a drive when he needs, when the game's on the line. Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are just making stuff up.
Yeah,
absolutely wild.
I was going to mention something similar to what Vince said here. The draft is a big moment where you can say, tell me you didn't watch the games without telling me you didn't watch the games. Right. It's true. I mean, yeah, if you're a draft analyst, I'm not expecting you to watch like 2,000 NCAA players a year. I mean, that's fine. But if you need to say, hey, I need to kind of have a couple of days to watch some tape here, that's okay. You can say that, and just throwing random crap about JJ against the wall and stuff that's just blatantly not even true. It's like, just, it's okay to admit that you haven't watched the film. It's okay. Right. You can go and do that. It's your job to watch the film. I mean, obviously you haven't. So
people talk about his accuracy when he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football. Worried about him turning it over. You take out his 3 interceptions against Bowling Green. They're real. I'm not saying they didn't happen. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the only other interception he had on the year was the red zone one to Barham against Maryland when he was hurt.
Yep.
Like, I just don't know. We have so many metrics beyond passing yards. Like, just look. It's not hard to figure out. I don't know if he's going to be great or not. I have no idea. I think it's a complete crapshoot with quarterbacks in the NFL. It so much depends on the system, the coach, the timing. That's why I like the Vikings fit on paper for him. But we have no idea if he's going to be great. Nobody does. And just the conversation around him, I thought, was just absolutely asinine. So
I agree.
Anyway, like we said, 13 players selected. I don't want to go through every one of these, obviously, but we'll kind of stop on some big ones. Chris Jenkins goes to the Bengals. He's probably replacing New Lion DJ Reader on the interior, their defensive tackle. It's so funny because Ohio fans are like, oh, a Michigan player. And then they start to see videos of the guy. He was doing like a Skyline Chili thing. And once they saw his mutant videos and some of his workouts, people are like, oh, whoa, okay. I've seen him with JJ at Minnesota, Zinter at Cleveland, Jenkins obviously going to Cincinnati. It's like, drop the college rivalry. And once you get to know these guys, like, you're going to like him. So
people are so dumb. They're so stupid. Like, it doesn't matter. When they leave school, it doesn't matter. And if you're an NFL fan, like, I don't care. Like, if Jared Goff went to Ohio State, I don't care. I'm rooting for him.
I don't get that.
It's weird.
The MSU fans that still hate Hutchinson.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Get over it.
Super Bowl, they're going to be, oh, you went to Michigan. Like,
it's
crazy.
Doesn't
matter. It's so stupid and so childish, but that's just who we are these days.
Mike Sainers still went 50 to the Commanders. I do want to spend some time on Mikey just because
I hate that fit for him. I hate that.
I hate it.
That's a fate work of death.
Well, here's the thing. They do have new ownership. Snyder is gone. The Washington has been the worst sports franchise of the 4 major sports for the last 20 years, if you ask me, in terms of just the way it's run. Just awful.
Yeah.
They do have new ownership. You've got a defensive staff there with Dan Quinn. We'll see what happens. But I think what bothered me even more, Brock, he came out and said he expected the Steelers to take him with the very next pick. Which, if you want to talk about a fit,
that would be good.
Mike Hilton. Is it Mike Hinton or Hilton? I think it's Hilton.
Hilton.
Yeah. Nickel cornerback who started at Pittsburgh. Is now at Cincinnati. Everyone compares Mike Sainristil to him. Sainristil's even said he's modeled his game after him. You just talk about the physicality, the blue collar. Oh, my God, would Sainristil have been a great fit in Pittsburgh. But he goes to Washington. we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I'm with Josh. I didn't like that when it happened. I still don't like it now. Washington is just a franchise that is trending downward. I mean, ever since they converted from the Redskins to the Commanders, I think their brand recognition has gone way down. And I think
I wish they would just say Washington football team.
Yeah, honestly,
I thought that was fine. Commanders is stupid.
Yeah, and they're just totally irrelevant in the NFC East and the NFC as a whole. I mean, I can't even remember the last time they were in a playoff game or competing for even a spot in the playoffs. Like
RG3 one year, maybe.
Yeah, feels like it's been forever.
Probably with Cousins.
You know,
Cousins, yeah.
Mikey Sanders was a baller though, so he's gonna go out there. He's gonna show out, and even if it doesn't translate to wins right away, he's gonna go there and give him everything he has. You know that for sure.
I'm trying to find it. Did they delete it? Hold on a second. Sorry, I'm gonna be so mad if the Cleveland Browns took. I'm skipping a step. I'm skipping a little bit. I'll get to that in a moment. Then hopefully I can find it. The running gag with Jim Harbaugh. How many Michigan players was he going to draft? Is he going to draft all Michigan players? Look, obviously there was a couple guys that are a good fit, but the idea he was just going to draft nothing but Michigan players. That wasn't going to happen. He's building a roster. I thought Sanders still would have been a good fit. I thought Corum would have been a good fit. The first Michigan player they take, though, Junior Coulson. He's one of those guys I was really surprised how late he went. A lot of folks thought he was the best linebacker in the draft. Josh, he ends up going third round, 69th overall. Nice. He steps in, starter.
Attaboy.
Yeah. Arguably quarterback of that defense. He's with Minter. He's with Harbaugh. I mean, when you're talking about great fits, that's just a feel-good story. But in terms of impact right out the gate, Coulson might be the highest on this list behind JJ. Assuming that if JJ starts or not. But
I think that's a really good fit. I honestly think he could be one of the best linebackers in this draft. I mean, there's really, I think what Derek says is really funny. Two hands are going to make him a beast. That's true.
That's a good point.
I mean, if he can avoid the injury bug, but it really hasn't hampered him too at the same time. But like, if he can kind of avoid that, then he's got a chance to be elite. So, being in going from what the defensive system that you thrived in to going to the defensive system that you thrived in the pros. I mean, that rarely ever happens in the NFL. And I can't even think of, quick off the top of my head, I can't even think of another example like that. So you're already talking about a rookie that's coming in with a leg up, playing on a defense that has some guys. I mean, Derwin James, Bosa, they've got guys on that defense already. So, you're basically essentially plugging and playing Coulson and being fine with it because he's comfortable in the defense. He knows what he's doing. I mean, there'll probably be a little, small nuances from Michigan to LA, but man, I mean, if you're talking about, the best fit out of all the Michigan guys, I mean, it's going to be really hard to make an argument that Coulson isn't in the best spot outside of JJ being at Minnesota. I think Coulson's is even more comfortable in LA than JJ going to Minnesota. So, man, yeah, you're talking what a great situation for him and what a great story too. I mean, in that, just continuing that on with Harbaugh, that's awesome to see. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to do really well. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to have a really, really good NFL career.
The thing that I loved most about that pick was Coulson. I don't remember if it was a separate interview or what it was, but he said the words, he picked me again. And if that doesn't hit you as a Michigan fan, I don't know what does, because if you look at Coulson's story coming from Haiti at, I think 9 years old, being adopted, coming to Tennessee in the States and becoming this football prospect, and Jim Harbaugh handpicks you from Tennessee, and then he brings you from Michigan to LA. I think that's just a great feel, like you said, Trevor, great feel good story. And I agree with Josh. I think he's going to flourish there. But yeah, that tugs at the heartstrings a little bit. I mean, what a story for Junior Coulson, and I wish him nothing but the best there in LA.
That's part of the reason I love the draft. Those videos where guys get the call. The Rams drafted Jared Verse and Braden Fisk from Florida State, and when they called Fisk, Verse had just gotten to the building in time. I don't know if you saw this, but there's a moment where Fisk realizes, oh, I'm playing with Verse again. That's awesome. And then Verse gets on the phone and just tells him how happy he is and how proud he is of him. And they both just start crying.
Wow.
And it's just cool, man. And then Coulson's moment. And then another one with the Chargers, Jerry Rice's son, Brendan Rice, who I cannot believe went in the 7th round.
Yeah.
For those who follow Michigan recruiting, there was a time we were pretty sure Brendan Rice was coming to Michigan.
Yep.
He liked Jim Harbaugh a lot. They had a really good relationship. When they get on the phone together, you can tell he was excited. But he had a funeral that day, a close friend of his. And just talk about a low and high moment at the same time. And just and he said a lot of great things since he's been drafted. I think he's going to be a stud. But those are it, man. And another story, I'm going to skip. We'll come back to Blake Corum. I'm going to skip because the Cleveland Browns, like I said, took Zinter. I want to show this first because for those of you, if you've got Twitter, X, whatever the hell it's called now, the Browns tweeted this. Zach Zinter bringing the winning habits from up north. And the comment section on this tweet, my God, it's just, again, back to our previous point about rival fans, just absolutely insane. The cheating. Somebody said like he should be suspended for the first 3. Like these people are idiots, dude. Absolute idiots. But props to the Browns. I thought that was funny as hell.
Yeah,
but another interesting story. They also drafted defensive tackle from Ohio State, Mike Hall, which he grew up in Cleveland. So really cool for him. But aside from the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, Mike Hall is the player who fell on Zinter's leg and broke his leg during the game. And again, it's funny that fans get so mad. These two have already said, look, like we're brothers. And like, they've really grabbed onto this unique situation with the injury tying them together. But in terms of fit, Joel Bettino is obviously a Hall of Fame guard playing for the Browns right now. I think there's an expectation though. I mean, he's not old, but for NFL years now, a Browns guy pointed out, he's literally the same age Joe Thomas was when he retired. So there's a good chance he could be on the field soon. And when you think about same reason we like the Steelers, the blue collar fit, potentially what would have been for Sanders, still what is for Roman Wilson, that AFC North division, again, Midwest, Zach Zinter, the Browns, it's Ohio, poor guy. That does feel like a good fit in terms of, again, just that division and ground and pound.
Yeah, no, that's right up there. I mean, I like that fit a lot too for him. I mean, I outside of Sanders still, there's really no guy that I see like, oh man, that's terrible. I mean, I think Sanders will probably deserve better, but it is what it is. You can't really pick and choose where you get drafted. So, I think that's a good spot for Zach. And his leg, he seems to be ahead of schedule, in terms of his legs. So, I don't think I don't know if he'll be participating in the mini camp.
He said he hopes to be good by June 1st.
Wow. That's good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. Yeah. So obviously, I mean, the mini camp, it is what it is. He can't participate, it's all right. But as long as he's there by training camp, I think he'll be just fine. And yeah, it would not come as a shock at all to see him get on the field at some point. The dude just wins, man. He's just a competitor. He's just, all he does is win. It would not surprise me.
There he is. There he is right there.
Yeah. So would not be surprised to see him get on the field sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would just say for him, it might be tough sitting for a while because if I remember right, he started pretty consistently since his freshman year, that COVID season. He started, I want to say it was 4 games that season.
Yeah.
Yep.
And was basically the starter the rest of his career, right?
Yeah,
so
him and Keegan were there for 3 years starting together.
Yep. So for him, if he's like Trevor, you mentioned, if he's sitting behind Joel Bitonio a little bit, then it'll be tough. But
it's a year; he'll be all right.
Yeah. You don't spend third, fourth round draft picks on guys and with the expectation of them to just sit on the bench. Those that's the money. That's those third and fourth rounds are where GMs make their money for sure. So I mean, he's going to be expected to play it at some point. Who knows when that point will be, but they're not just taking him just for him to be a depth piece at this point.
All right, I do want to move on to the Henschke bomb, so I'll just let each of you pick a player. But just to recap again, Corum goes to the Rams, maybe not the LA team we thought, but for the same reason I like JJ McVay. That is a downhill running offense, a defense-first team. Corum's going to make noise there. We talked about Wilson in Pittsburgh. AJ Barner, they kept talking about him reuniting with McDonald. They actually never crossed paths. He's reuniting with Jay.
He's also a defensive coach, so that makes zero sense.
Yeah, but whatever. But yeah, so we'll see how it seems like a fit there with Grubb, but we'll go from there. Keegan to the Eagles. They are going to love him. Just a tatted up bad boy. Like he's going to do well in Philly. And then, the draft record seemed out of touch at that point. And then we had the blitz in the 7th round. The Michigan man himself, no one has, and no one ever will because of the COVID year. I think this is records that will never be broken. Michael Barrett, no one wore the Michigan uniform more times and nobody won more games at Michigan than Michael Barrett. You talk about a guy who switched from quarterback to linebacker to play a Viper position that was then eliminated when his defensive coordinator was tossed, went back to special teams contributor, carved his way all the way back up to being a backup, gets a chance to start when Kyle Green gets hurt. He battles injury his whole career. Barrett's just the epitome of the Harbaugh era, in my opinion. He goes to Carolina, close to home. He's from Georgia. Ladarius Henderson, he's from the Dallas area, but he stays in Texas, goes to the Texans. Jalen Harrell goes to the Titans, who their defensive coordinator, the name is escaping me right now, but he was one of the guys from that Ravens system when we talked about dudes that Michigan could potentially target for defensive coordinator. So he's actually landing in the same defense. And then Jim Harbaugh does pull the trigger. Cornelius Johnson, another Michigan player, really good fit. I think Harbaugh probably thinks higher of Quentin Johnston than Chargers fans do because he saw what he did against Michigan in that TCU game. Yeah. But Cornelius coming in, backing up X receiver. I hope he makes the team. Obviously, as a blocker, he's going to be able to show what you got to do to get on the field. But yeah, feel free, Josh, any of those guys, if you want to pick one to talk about, and then we'll move
on. I guess I can talk about Cornelius. I think, and Steve makes a really good point in the comments that he'll make the Chargers for a special team alone. I agree. I mean,
3 or 4 blocked kicks?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a guy that's willing to do the dirty work.
That's a great point, Steve. Yeah.
And that's I mean, we're talking about Jim Harbaugh here. He knows exactly what Cornelius has to offer in that regard. So, he may not be the like a mainstay receiver, but if you're looking for a guy that a gunner or someone that has like a dedicated special teams role early, Cornelius just does the dirty work, and he also is a blocker too. He's a blocking receiver. He does all the things that most receivers don't want to do.
That's a good way to put it.
He's not a guy that's going to just demand the ball and only want the ball. He's going to help his teammates too. So that'll go a long way. Now, will he make the team? I don't know. But, I think, in terms of putting his best foot forward, landing with Jim Harbaugh and that offense is going to be a good thing for him for sure.
I'll talk a little bit about Trevor Keegan because I think, Trevor, you nailed it. He's just a bad dude. And like you said, he started with Zinter there on the offensive line for 3 years plus, and all he did was win games. And, he won 2 Joe Moore awards and probably should have won it a third year. And now he's off to Philadelphia.
I said hot take.
The offensive line was good in 23, but But yeah, I'm excited to see. I don't know exactly what Philadelphia's offensive line room is like. I don't really follow them too closely, but I'm excited to see him do the tush push. That's what I'm looking forward to. I want to see Trevor Keegan in there doing the tush push and scoring, not scoring the touchdown, but helping the Eagles get a touchdown. I'm looking forward to that.
Jason Kelsey, who, for those of you who don't know, is my spirit animal. He retired, and somebody posted like photos of Kelsey slamming the beer at the Bills game with no shirt on, and then Keegan slamming the beer at the championship parade, and how similar they looked. So he's going to fill that role of Kelsey right away. I don't know in terms of getting on the field. They've got Dickerson, and I can't remember the other guard, but I think he's in a similar spot to Zinter, where maybe he's there for a year. He's a good depth piece. He can slide to tackle. He didn't do it a lot, but he did do it at Michigan. So we'll see. And then, undrafted free agents, Carson Barnhart, another guy goes to the Chargers. He's a guy who can literally play tackle, guard, left or right. So he can carve out a role in the NFL because they only carry 7 or 8 dudes. So you got to be able to play all over the place. So he's got a chance as an undrafted free agent. James Turner, our kicker, stayed home. The Lions picked him up. UDFA, we'll see what happens there. Josh Wallace went to the Rams. Drake Nugent went to the 49ers. And then McGregor to the New York Jets, I thought was an interesting pickup as well. So Trent Jones, damn it. Trent Jones went to.
Trente. You got it right the first time.
No, last time you corrected me and said it was Trent after I said it Trente forever.
Did I? Oh, I don't know.
I think it's Trente.
I think it's Trente.
I said Trente forever, and then I got correct. Anyway.
No, it was opposite.
No, I've said Trente forever.
No. Yeah, after we corrected you.
That's not true.
It is true.
No,
that is 100% true. It is 100% true because I remember you getting called out in the comments.
I'm going to pull up the podcast. I admit to being wrong all the time. So, anyway, Trent
Tay.
He went to the Packers. We'll see what happens there. John Runyon went to the Giants, I think. So that spot's open. But anyway, they don't break the record, but 13. The rival fans trying to troll. Haha, you only had 13 players selected.
You only broke your school record again for the second time.
Then the Ohio State fans, the ones that made me laugh, was bringing up the 2004 draft where they had 14 players selected. Like, you didn't even break us. Like, what happened to that team in 2003 when Michigan and Ohio State played? Because I remember 35-21, John Navarre, Michigan won the Big Ten championship. Like, you guys are just so bad at this. But anyway. So, and next year, I don't want to get into this too much because we've already spent way more on the draft than I thought. But next year, Michigan's got Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Coulson Loveland, potentially 4 first-round picks. When they're ranked in the top 10 to start the year, people are going to be shocked. I don't think people realize this Michigan team is better than folks realize. And let's transition right into that. Josh, you dropped a Henschke bomb in the den earlier this week with some team intel coming out of spring practices heading into the summer. I want to kind of hit on some of these bullet points. Some of this is going to sound familiar. Some of it was very intriguing to me. Let's start at the top with the quarterbacks. Alex Orji, we've beat that drum enough all spring. He already is an absolute tank and monster. He looked bigger at the spring game. You've all but confirmed that in terms of the weight he's arguably carrying right now. And Jack Tuttle, who did not participate in spring, coming off of was it rehab from an injury or actual surgery on his elbow?
Surgery.
He had surgery. Okay. You have heard he is starting to throw.
Yeah. So Alex Orji, he's listed as 236 on Michigan's roster right now. But I was told that he could be closer to 250.
Tank.
Which is huge. I mean, that's gigantic for a quarterback, but it could fluctuate anywhere between the 240, 250 range. But either way, even him coming in at 236 is huge. So, that's it's all exactly. It's all muscle too. That's not, that's nothing to, it's bad, but, they're talking about the size of his legs too, are like ham hocks, like just the size of his legs. And I hate this is getting weird, but So
That's a big orgy.
Orgy has some big old legs and some big old legs. But yeah, he's
We have to be
putting in
the
work.
least professional Michigan beat.
No, I don't.
I don't give a
Yeah,
fuck.
who cares? We have fun here.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I blame Derek. It's Derek's fault.
Yeah, it is Derek. I always blame Derek. When in doubt, blame Derek.
No, we love you, Derek. You're the best.
But yeah, I mean, Orgy's put in the work. He continues to put in the work. Shut up, Trevor.
That might be part of my problem.
Yeah. So he's looked at as kind of like the de facto leader of the clubhouse with the QB competition heading into fall. I mean, he's not officially the guy,
but we've talked about this. It's clear they want him to be.
Yeah, exactly.
They're daring him to take it.
Yeah, exactly. They're basically saying, "Hey, take this job. You know, we dare you to take this job." So, yeah, well, obviously there's really not going to be much. I guess I don't know what the word development is the right word, but there's going to be no significant progress with the quarterback battle during the summer. I mean, obviously the coaches can't coach them. They're going to be doing a lot of stuff on their own and summer workouts and stuff. So this is going to go into fall. And I would not be at all surprised.
The week of the game.
Yeah, Sharon's not gonna say anything, the week of the game. I mean, we're gonna all find out. We're gonna find out the second he runs out, for the first snap of the game against Fresno State. So, but at this point, yeah, I mean, he's being looked at as kind of like the QB1 right now, and obviously that could change. And I know Jack Tuttle too had some elbow surgery after that hit out of bounds. Again,
is that where he got hurt?
Yeah.
Okay.
What team was that? Indiana?
It was the last home game, wasn't it?
Was that against Indiana?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Indiana.
It was late in the year, but he had off-season surgery. Didn't really play much during spring. And it's just now. Yeah. God, I wish he'd shut up. Yeah. Love the dog to death, but
he's good.
Yeah, he is throwing a little bit. He's back to throwing a little bit, which I don't know what a little bit is. But
more than not.
Yeah, I guess it's better than not throwing at all during spring. So he's going to be another guy that it's essentially. I mean, it's kind of technically you're adding a portal guy because you didn't have him during spring, and now you're throwing him in there day one of fall camp, and kind of to see what he can do. And for expectations, I don't know what those expectations look like for Tuttle. So we'll kind of see. But I mean, he's absolutely going to be in the mix. I mean, he's going to get every opportunity, just like all those other guys are going to have every opportunity to take the starting job.
It was the backup last year. He's got the most experience, granted not as a starter, right? But Sharon went out of his way to point out that he's backed up Michael Penix. We didn't even have a chance to talk about the Falcons. Good Lord. Talk about what are you doing? Has nothing to do with Penix, but my God. Anyway, backed up Penix and JJ. So the number 8 and the number 10 pick is who Jack Tuttle has played behind his career. But Brock coming out of spring, it felt like what we've said about Orgy, and then Davis Warren took the biggest leap. He seems to be the closest in terms of being in that battle. And now Tuttle, if healthy, is obviously going to be a part of it. Sharon Moore has made that clear. He'll be a part of it. What do you think fall is going to look like? I'm not asking you to make a prediction who starts, but a healthy Tuttle, a Warren making strides, and then Alex Orgy that is obviously, I don't know what the right term is, but what we've said, that the team, the players, the coaches all clearly are trying to push him to take this starting job.
Yeah, I think it's going to look like fierce competition. That's what I think it's going to look like. And talking with Kirk Campbell after the spring game, he basically flat out said this is not going to be settled anytime soon. Like, don't expect, if you're a Michigan fan, to have a starting quarterback named by the end of spring ball or by the beginning of fall camp or whatever it is. This is going to go deep. And he specifically talked about if you name a starting quarterback, at the beginning of fall camp, heading into, the first couple weeks leading into the season, it handicaps you.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck.
Unless you have JJ, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
Right. If it's a situation like last year where you knew exactly who your starting quarterback was going to be, he's your leader. He's not a captain per se, but he is the leader of the team.
Yeah.
That was as clear cut as it gets.
Huh?
I said, what did you call him?
He said a captain.
No, I'm joking. Never mind. Never mind.
Okay. Well,
Bro,
the joke.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, last year,
I'm hoping someone in the comments will get that joke.
Maybe Derek will, but this is not last year.
It's not. No,
it's not last year, right? So you're looking at 2, 3, maybe even 4 guys if Jaden Denegal can insert himself, or if they bring a guy in from the portal, right? So you still never know. And that was my biggest takeaway from what Kirk Campbell said was this is going to go deep. And like you guys talked about, I could definitely see it going well into fall camp and towards the start of the season.
Damn it. Okay.
I set that one up.
Any other name. He could have been any other name. I think the one thing I've talked about before is even if there is a scenario where Tuttle or Warren is technically the starter, Alex Orji is going to play.
Yeah.
If they took JJ off the field in big moments and big games to let Orji even just run the ball, but still letting him have the ball in his hands, he's going to play, which is a big reason why I think they want him to be the starter so bad to begin with, right? I agree with Steve. I don't mean no knock on Denegal, but the way Moore and Campbell consistently talked about the run game element, even just being able to scramble, I don't know what Denegal brings if he hasn't overwhelmed with accuracy, right? If you have not been the most consistent passer and you don't have the run game element, I'm not sure where you fit into that. And then Jaden Davis, as good as his spring was, they just do not seem eager to not redshirt him. So, and as far as the transfer portal, look, people can get upset about it, but there's 2 scenarios here to realize. One, Michigan believes in the quarterbacks they have. Kirk Campbell has had his hands on the players that are here for the last couple of years, not just last year, the year before as an analyst. Big reason he got the QB job was because of his relationship with the quarterbacks. They believe in the guys they have. And also, the answer is not in the portal. Michael Pratt was a guy I think that had he entered the portal, absolutely would have been a mutual interest between him and Michigan. He goes the NFL draft, doesn't get drafted to the 6th or 7th round or something. Bummer, right? There's 2 or 3 guys. I've dropped names before. I'm not going to do it again. I believe feelers were put out. If they had gone to the portal, maybe Michigan makes a move. The guy's just not there. It just didn't happen.
Well, so, and it also didn't happen during the first portal window because you still didn't know what JJ was going to do.
100%.
So, and you're not going to recruit over JJ. I mean, are you kidding me? So,
right. You're not going to get anybody because the first question they're going to ask you is what's going on with JJ.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, and Harbaugh. So,
right.
So that there was a double kind of a double whammy there. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So, we'll see what happens this year. And, Carter Smith is an exciting prospect too. So I'm kind of curious to see how he adds into the picture here in the future. So.
He's going to be, I don't know if this is a hot take even because of where he's ranked and the way it'll fall out. I think he's going to be a 5-star. Carter Smith's going to end up really surprising some folks. And I think that was a huge pickup.
He's got a lot of JJ in him in terms of leadership and, I guess you could say play style too, but there's a lot of I could see the JJ comparisons to him for
sure. Regardless of where he ends up ranked, I said the same thing with Mason Graham. When you win Player of the Year awards, high profile Player of the Year awards in California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, I don't care where and working for rivals, I don't care where you're ranked. Somebody just said you're the best player in one of the hotbeds of recruiting. Okay. Yep. Right. So, all right, let's try and get through a few of these here, and then we'll get into some basketball as well. Depth on the defensive line. Josh, you had some intel there. We know what we have with Derek Moore. We know what we have with Josiah Stewart. And, Etta has been hyped up like crazy. Mm-hmm. One of your favorite players, Trey Pierce, got some hype coming out of spring. And I thought one of the storylines of the spring game was all of the edge players. I mean, we saw Breon Ishmael make plays. We saw Keyshawn Bennett make a play. Freshman Dominic Nichols looked like a beast on the field and made some plays. That's a position group where you go, hey, wait a minute. Because we've said, look, they're not going to have 4 starters again.
Yep.
Right. You don't have McGregor and Harrell, but there's some depth there. That group's developing. And Lou Esposito has been a home run hire in the wake of the Scruggs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to double up on that too, because Esposito got a shout out from those I was speaking to as well, that he's just been awesome since he's arrived. They love his energy. They love what he has brought to the table, and look, the guy has tangible things to show you. Hey, I just got 2 guys drafted. I developed them from no offer guys to obviously they went elsewhere, but that's the reason why they went elsewhere, because they were developed.
Yeah. Fisk spent 1 year at Florida State, but there's a reason Florida State picked him up, and Matthew Nealon finished at Western. So I have no problem giving him props for those.
Yep, exactly. So, and the big thing about this staff, what they wanted to accomplish this year is depth on both lines, particularly on defense. And they feel like it's almost there. They feel like it's there. Etta, obviously, a lot of hype on him. I've been more hype adding to it. He's been adding more weight, and he's
over 300 now, right?
Yep. Yeah, he's over 300. Been told that he has a 6-pack for those who really care about that. But
that's creepy.
I don't, but that's what I was told, so
he's got some of that Chris Jenkins in him. He's a guy that can play inside, outside, get after the passer, block, fill the run gap. He's gonna have a big year.
Yep. Trey Pierce, as you said, he's hovering around 320 right now, which is perfect size for a guy that you want to come in and play. He's definitely going to play. I mean, Cameron Brandt there too is another guy. Yep. TJ Guy, really strong spring. So the depth is there, and I feel like they've established it, in the spring, and we'll kind of see how that factors in, because we aren't even talking about Rayshon Benny, who missed all spring with his ankle injury. So there's depth there. There's absolutely depth there, and there's the young depth that they're excited about, because obviously you're going to have to start thinking about life after Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant soon. Not just
they're not coming back next year.
No, enjoy them. Enjoy them while they last, because it's not going to be very much longer. And that's the exact reason why they want to establish this depth, because, hey guys, they're not going to be here after this year. So, a lot of excitement there. I'm trying to go through my notes to see if I missed anything. At a close to the 300-pound mark, and is ripped, and also told that the room is really deep. So, I think this is going to be another. I think the defense this year is going to be the catalyst is going to be the defensive line. I mean, I think you could make the argument last year that the catalyst was linebackers and probably defensive backs, but the defensive line also made a point too. But I think this year the catalyst is really on the defensive line. And that's not to say that they don't have guys on a linebacker. I mean, they absolutely do. But
let's get into that. Brock, don't be offended, Brock. I'm going to try and get through a couple of these real quick just for sake of time here. But I think one of the big change points from Minter defensive back guy to Wink, I think you're right. I think defensive line is going to be leaned on even more this year. You brought up linebacker. More height for Jayshawn Barham, more height for Ernest Hausman. In terms of transfer portal, look, Michigan held off the exodus. Yeah. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson, they're all back. We did see some depth pieces, especially linebacker, 3 of them, head to the portal. Samaj Bridgman was a guy who, look, he just probably didn't fit in a way. They tried to carve out a role for him being more of like a Sam-style linebacker, what Harrell was before he moved to the edge. Just didn't really work out. Hayden Moore's a guy that a lot of folks were excited about, but was not able to surpass a Jimmy Rolder or a oh my gosh, why am I thinking? Drawing a blank here, Jaden.
Jaden Hood.
Thank you. Yeah. Jeremiah Beasley probably should have just gone to Missouri in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was the move there after an early enrollee, talk about the new era of the transfer portal, right? But look, part of that has to do with how good Barham has been, how good Ernest Hausman has been, and what some folks have pointed out. I've been penciling him in at edge, but Cole Sullivan might see the field this year at linebacker. Like, he had a strong spring.
Yeah, no, both of those guys are really like they've got a chance to both be elite. So we'll kind of see how that develops. But man, I don't think there's been a week that goes by that you haven't heard Barham's name mentioned once or twice. Just elite stuff like coming out of Schembechler Hall in terms of how they view him. We've been told. I've been told that like he could play for I mean, this is obviously taking with a grain of salt in mind, that he could play for the Lions right now, that, he's faster than Junior Coulson. That was the latest note I got over the weekend, is that he could be faster than Junior Coulson, which, if that's the case, I mean, that's pretty elite stuff. So, what we'll kind of see how that talk kind of translates to the field. I think, a lot of it is probably talk, but that talk has to come from somewhere.
Well, this is a guy that started for 2 years in the Big Ten. He's not unproven.
Right. Exactly. It's not like, yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, he's got some experience, and Michigan is gotten firsthand experience with him. Like, no, like even I know Sherrell Moore said recently on a podcast that, they were saying when they were going through Maryland's tape that he was a problem. So, and he is, and not to be outdone too. Ernest Hausman is definitely earned his praise too. He's really coming into his own, and obviously a day one starter alongside Barham. So those two guys are going to be pretty dangerous combo, coming into the year. So, we'll see how the other guys develop. I haven't really gotten much on the guys like Jimmy Rolder. I know Hewlett's been thrown around the comments here.
Well, that's a spot they may add in the portal still too.
Yeah, possibly.
We know they were sniffing around there for a bit. But.
Right. So, we'll kind of see how the back end of that depth develops, but if they might not even need them. So like those two guys are going to not want to leave the field. So pretty exciting stuff from the linebackers, honestly.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that Michigan's linebacker room is just really, really deep, and maybe not as deep as it is just there's so many guys, right? And if you tell Michigan,
it's been nothing but Coulson and Barrett for 2 years.
Right. Yeah. And if you tell Michigan at the beginning of spring ball that by the end you're going to lose 3 guys, but those guys are Samaj Bridgman, Hayden Moore, and Jeremiah Beasley, I think they're okay with that, honestly. Like, they've got so many options. And like you guys just said, Barham and Hausman are not going to want to leave the field. You still have Jimmy Rolder, who played a lot as a true freshman, Jaden Hood, Micah Pollard. You could list guys for forever, I feel like. There's just so many guys there that are capable of playing linebacker. And so, do you necessarily like to see true freshmen leaving the program before playing a snap? No. But if you're Michigan, you've got so many guys there that it really doesn't affect too much.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the big picture again of this era of the transfer portal and what happened to Alabama with their coaching change and Washington with their coaching change, if you look at it through just the bubble of Michigan and what of college football for the last 10, 20, 30 years, it's like, oh my God, what is happening? But again, across the whole landscape, it could have been much worse, right? I liked all 3 of those dudes. It's a bummer, and it's just part of the era we are in now. We're not going to see these guys stick around and wait. And Amir Herring's a guy who was still fighting for a 2-deep role and just wasn't going to do it. So it just is what it is. But yeah, and linebacker too, moving forward, we'll see. This is still kind of an unknown with the transition to Wink, but I wonder if seeing a lot more 5-man defensive fronts, which is just smart, leaning into your strength, what we talked about, means going to 5-1-5. So when a defensive back comes on the field, it's actually the linebacker that's coming off the field potentially. Maybe there's not a need for 4 or 5 guys anymore, right? Just the structure of the defense. And Barham's going to blitz. Barrett was a guy that got sent quite a bit last year. Barham's going to get sent a lot, I think. They're going to drop some guys back in coverage. So I think that defensive line group and the linebackers are going to be a lot more in unison this year than we've seen in previous years. But yeah, Jair Hill. And just so we're clear, this is not a situation where something happens and now we're trying to say, well, doesn't matter because blah, blah, blah. We were hearing about Jair Hill's spring as it is already, but DJ Waller enters the transfer portal. There's a position battle there for CB2. They both had strong moments during the spring game, but it was made clear at the end of spring, and it sounds like Intel is kind of verifying this, that Hill had a pretty significant lead on that CB2 role, which we should not be shocked by. He came in the higher ceiling prospect as a freshman, ended up getting hurt. Waller played well last year. But Hill's a guy, again, when we think about a lot more 4 defensive back sets and the versatility that's going to be needed, especially replacing CB2 and having no Rod Moore, a guy like Hill who has the skill set to line up at corner, nickel, and safety, not shocking to hear he's maybe having an edge there. But again, the Waller loss, it's a bummer. But on the flip side of that, might have been influenced by some of the intel we were hearing on Jair Hill.
Yeah, part of it. Not all of it, obviously.
Sure.
But, there's a part of it is that, that Jair Hill beat him out this spring. And I mean, the play was obvious. I mean, I think Hill outperformed Waller in the spring game. And obviously, that like window of time isn't how you define a depth chart. I mean, obviously the coaches have seen a hell of a lot more than we have in terms of what they have. But yeah, it's from talking to people. I mean, it's pretty clear that, that Jair is going to be the guy to go alongside Will Johnson. And that's kind of the nice thing about what they have at defensive back is, they've got guys that can play multiple roles. I mean, you've got Zeke Berry, who obviously is going to work his way into a huge role, and Quentin Johnson not participating in spring is probably the best thing that could have happened to Zeke Berry outside of Keon Sabb leaving. That gave him all of the snaps in the world during spring to really just develop. I mean, to get to prove what he can show, and we saw exactly that, and he's going to be in the mix. McBurrows is going to be in the mix, in that and like a nickel type of role.
Yeah,
but also
Barry and McBurrows, yep.
Yeah, so and even you can make the argument that Will Johnson can be moved all over the place too. So I think the fortunate thing, I mean, yeah, Waller is definitely a loss. I mean, I'm not gonna downplay that.
Yeah, I was gonna say let me make sure I correct that.
Yeah, no,
I like DJ Waller a lot. I did think he was gonna be a safety. I was impressed how he did at corner last year. So yeah, he absolutely had versatility too. I'm just not shocked. A guy from Ohio who was recruited by Clink, chasing not necessarily guaranteed, but maybe a better starting opportunity, maybe a bigger bag going to Kentucky. I'm not shocked by him taking that opportunity. I rather he was still in Ann Arbor. Not trying to say otherwise. Yeah. But Jair Hill has been strong is all I'm trying to say. So.
Yeah. So, that's, as you said, the Jair Hill performing the way he is kind of absorbs that blow a little bit, but you're also talking about 3, 4, 5 guys that can do different things for you, and that can kind of, again, absorb a little bit of losses here and there, can kind of make up for the depth that might be lacking there a little bit. And, by all accounts, Michigan is still looking for defensive back help in the portal.
Good point.
I know
they've been chasing experience there since the winter.
Yeah. I know that they've reached out to Jaden Mangum from Michigan State, and I know they've reached out to the guy from Texas, defensive Brooks from Texas.
Miami kids too.
Yeah, and there was another kid from Texas A&M that they've reached out to as well. So yeah, I mean they're not content, nor should they be. They shouldn't be content with the entire roster, but they're making additions where it kind of makes sense, and like defensive line too. They've got Suggs from Grand Valley visiting tomorrow. I should actually reconfirm that visit's still happening, because the way things go these days, things change. But as far as I'm aware, it's still on for Monday. So there's, who knows, a week from now, the roster could look totally different with some additions there. But if Michigan were to go into the season with their group of defensive backs, I think they'd be fine. I think they'd be okay with what they have. That they probably will have to be a little bit more. I don't know what the right word is. Open to moving guys around and kind of shuffling things a little bit to get things going until you can actually get something solid in terms of what you have and the depth chart, heading into the season. But I mean, it was a loss. Waller is a loss. However, Jair Hill, heading into the year was going to be CB2, barring something unforeseen. So, it is what it is these days. I mean, I don't blame Michigan for losing guys. It just happens. It's just something you're going to have to get used to. It's either, even with the linebacker guys that they lost, you're talking about a situation now where you either replace those guys with portal guys or like for like with over recruiting,
Right.
to over recruit these guys these days, because as now we've seen freshmen that have been on campus for 3 months transfer out. So,
and that was a deep room anyway. I can't remember. I think somebody actually posted too the amount of players that are still like 9 or 10 scholarship linebackers after the 3 guys left. So yeah.
I want to point out Newber's point really quick, because my opinion is a little bit different than yours, Josh. I think Michigan really needs to add a transfer there at corner. You've got Will Johnson, you've got Jair Hill, but after those two, what are the other true corners that are really proven? You have Keyshawn Harris that's there. You've got Jaden McBurrows, if you want to call him a true corner. I wouldn't say that Zeke Berry's a cornerback. He's more of a safety. I just think it's a thin room. And if you get an injury to Will Johnson or Jair Hill, I think you're looking at a pretty serious problem there in the secondary. And, how terrible would that be if a very strong defense got picked apart because you have a liability at corner and one receiver has some crazy game because you can't stop it, right? So I do think Michigan needs to address that in the portal at some point before the season starts.
To be fair, I think they'd be screwed either way with Will Johnson getting hurt.
That's a good point. That is good point.
Yeah, the drop off is significant no matter what. Right?
Yeah, right.
But no, to Brock's point, again, not trying to cover over. I mean, the depth value, the rotation value of having a DJ Waller, significant. I do think in the same way Hill played a little bit as a freshman, Waller made some noise as a freshman. I wish he had been able to enroll early, but Josiah Edmond is a guy who I think could be a step ahead. And again, that's just a freshman. That's not DJ Waller, right? That's not somebody with that level of experience. But they've been trying to add secondary help. Like I said, since the winter, they had a couple nickel safety hybrids come in. That somebody, one, maybe even 2 guys are going to get added. It's just tough to find that experience and depth you need when guys. I mean, this is part of the good thing about the NIL era, is some of these mid-level schools can offer starting opportunities and enough money for a guy to go play So you're not going to be able to load up with 110 guys every year because these guys are going to have opportunities at other spots to play. So, all right, let's crush through these last couple. The running back room got very interesting coming to the end of spring and coming out of the spring game. We've talked about, is Mullings maybe your early down guy, and Edwards kind of stays in a similar role. He already looked larger at the spring game, continues to get bigger. He's RB1. They want him to be the guy. And we saw him running between the tackles in the spring game. Mullings is obviously going to be a huge factor. But not only is he maybe not in that RB1 conversation, potentially, he's got guys nipping on his heels at RB2.
Yeah.
Tavier Dunlap is a guy who's a part of this rotation. And we still have Jordan Marshall coming in the fall, who is a talented enough freshman to be able to contribute early. But what are you kind of hearing about Edwards, Mullings, Hall, Dunlap, that group and kind of a pecking order and how that's working out post-spring?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you don't need me to say this, but Donovan Edwards is running back number 1. Breaking news there, right? But behind them, it's kind of I guess I would say busy, but in a good kind of way. It's not like they don't really know what they have. I mean, they've got guys that really like. I mean, obviously, right now, Mullings is your running back number 2. I mean, that's obvious. But Ben Hall is right there. Tavi Dunlap is also right there. So I don't even know if I'd even call them RB3 and RB4. It's probably RB3-1, RB3A, and RB3B. I mean, both of those guys, they're still kind of similar in the way they're bigger guys. It can also move, and I think Ben Hall's probably a little bit more of a physical runner, but they've got guys there. I mean, obviously, you're hoping that RB1 is your workhorse guy in Donovan Edwards, and he's put on some significant weight. I mean, you can just look at him.
It's crazy.
Not even with a uniform on and just in street clothes, and he's thicker. I mean, they want him to kind of avoid the thing that's kind of plagued him the most, that is that being susceptible to really going down at first contact. So, by all accounts, he's had a really good spring. Trusting his legs more now that the injuries have kind of. It's tough. It's tough to bounce back from injuries. I mean, I don't care who you are. It's a mental hurdle you have to get over. So, and I think he's over that hurdle, and having a whole spring, uninterrupted spring, mind you, really went a long way for him. And we talked last year, and I know I'm guilty of this, that it doesn't matter if both of those guys, if both Blake and Donovan don't play in the spring, they'll be fine. I think it goes a long way, and we saw it, and even Donovan admitted it after the couple, it was like a month or two ago. Like, not having a spring kind of put me behind, and I didn't even really think of it that way. And it's true, like having a whole spring, uninterrupted spring, not being injured, really goes a long way for the psyche and your development of keeping things on track. So it would not be a shock to see a guy like Donovan have kind of the like getting kick started to having a stronger start to the year. So I mean, Donovan Edwards is one of the leaders of this team. He's one of the leaders of this offense, so he's going to lead the way. Mullings RB2, RB3 is kind of where it gets a little murky. Hall and Dunlap could definitely split carries, and I think they'd be fine with that. I think either guy can give you what you need if you're in that RB3 role. And so RB4, I mean, you've got Cole Cabana, but the guy hasn't been able to be healthy enough to have to string together anything. So that's kind of unfortunate for him. So that's kind of where it gets a little murky after RB3, in which you're okay with that if you're Michigan, because if you're going to RB4, in more on a consistent basis, then you're probably in trouble. So They have clear, like the pecking order is pretty clear. Outside of Mullings and Edwards, it's kind of, they'll see what the fall camp looks like for the rest of it. But, I think that's a pretty strong room of running backs. And as you said, we haven't even mentioned Jordan Marshall being into the mix too. And how he gets inserted into the mix, I'm not sure. I think he's capable of seeing time, but again, he'd have to do something really special to steal snaps away from guys like Edwards and Mullins even. So, we'll just kind of see how it works out.
Yeah, and for the most part, you know what you're going to get from Donovan Edwards. He had a tough year last year, but largely, you know what you have with him at running back. Khalil Mullings is kind of the same. They talked about a month or two ago, they talked about being the thunder and lightning in the Michigan backfield. What I'm excited for is seeing Michigan. You're not going to get it as much with Texas, but in the Fresno State and Arkansas State games toward the beginning of the season, assuming Michigan is up by multiple touchdowns late in the second half, I'm excited to see, Josh, all the guys you just mentioned, the Ben Halls, the Cole Cabanas, the Jordan Marshalls, the Micah Capanas, all these guys, I'm excited to see them get in there and show what they can do. Michigan has so many guys that are capable of performing well at running back, and especially behind a good offensive line too. So very, very excited to see what you're going to get. Give Edwards his carries until you're up by a couple touchdowns in the second half. Get Mullings in there too. But that might be one of the things I'm most excited for to begin the season and the non-conference outside of the Texas game, is seeing those young running backs getting in there. Tavier Dunlap too. He's a guy who doesn't have a whole lot of experience. He's not as young as the other guys, but just seeing all those guys perform. There's been so much hype about all of them individually. I want to see them get out there on the field and do what they can do.
Well, look, we're going to get into the next group. You have 5 new starters on offensive line. If you don't count Hinton, you're going to have a new quarterback who's not JJ McCarthy. And then, like I said, we're going to talk about wide receiver. This running back group needs to be good. And you're replacing, I don't know if it's even fair to say arguably anymore, but the greatest running back in Michigan football history at this point, statistically, as a human, however you want to rate him, Blake Corum, man. It's going to be interesting for sure. I hope nobody thinks I'm sleeping on Micah Kaapana. I took a lot of heat when he committed, and I said I was fine with him taking a spot. As soon as I put his tape on, I was like, my God, 70 carries, and I don't even remember his stats. I just remember they were absolutely absurd that junior year. And
that's good competition too. Like
Bishop Gorham is national.
Yeah, you got to take it for what it is. Like if you get, I don't care what you're rated. I don't care if you're a low 3-star or a fringe 5-star. Right. You put up numbers like that in that league, you're good. You can play. So.
Well, yeah. Again, the Mason Graham thing, playing at Servite, like you're almost like you're above high school. There's like this entry just below college level of high school programs. Some schools in Texas, obviously, just powerhouses, man. Yeah. So, no, it's a good group, but yeah, it's all your guys' point. And Brock, like you said, I just want to see it at this point, so see how it plays out. We've seen a lot of 1-2 punch in the last couple of years. I remember in previous years when there were 4 or 5 guys, I felt like they rotated too much. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's not Mike Hart anymore. And then we're going to see how Alfred handles that group moving forward. So the last thing we were going to touch on was the wide receiver. Couple things, obviously this week, 2 transfer portal additions. CJ Charleston comes from Youngstown State. Look, I don't want to get in the debate again. Similar thing when we had with Josh Wallace last year, right? The level of competition, blah, blah, blah. If you can play, you can play.
Yeah.
And in his spot too, you're not asking him to be wide receiver 2. You're asking him to be wide receiver 4 or 5. He's replacing Carmelo English, a guy who can play the Z or the slot, but he brings a couple years of experience, right? They used him on motion behind the line. They used him in screen passes. He can get into the intermediate routes. He can get deep. I put up his stats from Youngstown. If he goes out there and catches 20 or 30 balls, a few hundred yards, a couple touchdowns, okay. I'll take that behind Fred Moore, Samaj Morgan, Tyler Morris. That's the main group, right? And then at the X receiver, you get just an interesting addition. And Moran Walker comes back from Ole Miss, moves back to wide receiver, which I have praised Jim Harbaugh for his position changes over and over again. That was one that felt kind of desperate at the time with the DB depth. And in hindsight, people are like, oh, he left Ole Miss and came back. Yeah, I think Michigan made some mistakes there too. He's coming back to play receiver. We'll see how he does. Same thing. If he can go above expectations, that's fantastic. We know his skill set. He's big. He brings some speed. He's basically what we thought Andrell Anthony was going to be. So can he be on the plus side of that and make some more catches and not some drops? Right? There's no experience there. But Fred Moore is really your only other option there, unless you start getting into the Peyton O'Learys and the Kendrick Bells making a step. And then obviously we've talked about Coulson and Loveland like crazy. But one thing with your intel coming out, and that this isn't shocking to anyone when you think about how Ronnie Bell was used, how Roman Wilson was used last year. I love Samaj Morgan a lot. I think he's going to be a huge impact player, but the top target might be coming into focus pretty clearly here coming out of spring.
Yeah, and it shouldn't come as a surprise, but I think Tyler Morris, from people that he's going to be the premier target, at receiver, to start the year, and we'll kind of see, if Michigan decides to add more receivers into the mix. I mean, they've added two guys that do different things. I mean, you're talking about, Walker, who's what, 6'3",
6'3" or 4, yeah.
3, and then Charleston, who's a fringe 6-footer, kind of like a Samaj Morgan-esque type of frame. So do they add another outside guy? We'll see. But I mean, outside of Tyler Morris, you don't have a whole lot of experience there. I mean, Fred Morris showed you things that you really liked. Samaj, you're looking for him to take a next step, and there's absolutely a role for him. And I think, the big thing with Samaj, last year was that he just ran out of gas. He just wasn't as
literally on that return against Iowa.
And the funny thing you mentioned that is because that was the example that was used in terms of just Samaj running out of gas. It's just not in that physically. I say that and I look like an absolute slob. Not in a physically, just wasn't in prime physical fitness, I guess, for a freshman. As a true freshman walking straight out of high school. I look like a big piece of crap. But
I love talking about the talent.
I know, right?
Of these D1 national champion football players.
We're all sitting here talking about recruits.
It's like the World of Warcraft meme, the fat guy just sitting there on the computer.
Everyone that writes looks like just a big sloppy mess. We're really the premier guys of talent evaluation. But Samaj is in a much better physical. I mean, he's got another year under his belt, so it's that matters. That factors into it. So now that he's got that under his belt, you got to you're going to let Samaj be Samaj and be involved. I don't know if that involves him being part of the kicking game. I don't know how that factors in yet, because you can also factor in Tyler Morris. But do you really want Tyler Morris to be your kicker punt returner? I don't know.
There's where Cole Cabana could play, in my opinion.
I mean, that's I mean, but you just want to see him be healthy. I think that's the
I
big
know.
thing.
I've defended the Ronnie Bell on return decision so many times, so it's going to make me a hypocrite. But if I can find somebody who's not as much of a drop off, and I can keep my top two receivers not on the return game. But we've also seen what Samaj can do. So
right, I didn't mind the Ronnie Bell kick returner thing. I mean,
it's a fluke injury,
right? Injuries happen. I mean, what are you going to say? Like, someone drops back to pass, and they tears an ACL. Oh, can't pass anymore because you have fear of your guy getting injured. But it's just, I don't know, man. They've got guys. It's just they need guys to step up, and I've said this about this team for months, is that they have guys on the roster. They just need to have them step up, and is that the best position to be in? No, but that's what you would trade if, when you think of what Michigan did last year and who they had come back for an extra year, you would absolutely trade a national championship for what Michigan is right now. And Michigan, they're not even a bad team. They'll probably be a top 10 ranked team heading into the year. They've got guys. It's just inexperience, and that's just, it is what it is. That's part of it. And at some point you have to let these guys play. And, we're going to see a lot of that this year is, these guys got to play and these guys got to go out there and prove it. And, they've got, Tyler Morris has already proven it. Samaj can prove it. He's right there. Charleston and Walker, they're both kind of, we'll kind of see how that works. Because Walker, it's not like he's coming in and learning a whole new offense. He had a cup of coffee at Ole Miss. He learned the scheme a little bit, but
a hottie toddy.
Yeah, exactly. He had a hottie toddy and down at Ole Miss, and then came back, and
he just doesn't like snow. He spent the spring in Mississippi.
Right. I don't blame him. Granted, though, this Michigan winter wasn't that bad, but it's, we'll kind of see how Walker gets. I expect him to play. I honestly, I can't sit there and tell you what he's going to give you. Because he hasn't proven it. But like, as you said, he spent time as a defensive back where he probably didn't need to. So, we'll kind of see how that works out. But if you're getting, like, I know someone asked, like, over under 2.5 touchdowns from Walker. If you get over it, I would tell you I have no idea. Because even trying to predict any wide receiver numbers in Michigan's offense is an absolute crapshoot. Because you got guys like Cornelius Johnson, 600 yards and 1 touchdown reception last year, and then you had Roman Wilson, like 600 yards, 8,000 touchdown reception. So it's just
12.
Well, close enough. It's just trying to predict Michigan's passing offense. I don't care who the quarterback is. We had issues with trying to predict JJ last year. It's so hard to do, and a lot of that is relying on the run game too. If they got the run game going, that takes the pressure off of the receivers a little bit too. So I think best case scenario is that, and I think, we're all just operating under the assumption that the run game is going to be fine. So, we're not factoring in the run game potentially stinking. So we'll see.
Shut your mouth.
Well, I'm not predicting it because they've got guys. But it's just so hard to predict the passing game because it's just like they're not a traditional passing.
Has your mood changed with the transfer additions, Brock? Are you still? Look, Cornelius and Roman had a level of experience that this just doesn't exist. There were a couple of guys like Alford from Syracuse ended up at Utah. Obviously, they went after Donovan McCulley at Epstein, Indiana. They just could not get those experienced big man receivers to come. So,
yeah, I think Michigan's going to be all right. I think it was you, Trevor, or maybe it was someone else who put out a tweet that after Josh's intel was posted or something like that, referencing Tyler Morris's touchdown against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. I think that was kind of the moment where a lot of people realized, okay, this guy's the future, right? That was his only touchdown reception of the season, but he showed a lot.
Yeah,
like turning that corner, beating out the 2 Bama guys to get to the end zone. That was legit, and so he's clearly proven he can play with the best of them, right? And he's just got to get a little more consistent. But I think Michigan's going to be fine. Samaj Morgan proved a lot last year, and bringing in Charleston, bringing back Walker. I think Fred Moore too. I think there are a lot of guys there. Kendrick Bell caught a touchdown in the spring game. There are enough guys there, I think, to do it by committee. You're not going to see anyone catch 12 touchdowns like Roman Wilson did last year, but there are enough guys there in the room to get it done, especially if Michigan isn't throwing as much as it was last year. Maybe not because they don't trust the quarterback, but because simply the quarterback isn't JJ McCarthy, right? So I think they're going to lean a little more heavily on the run game, and you're not going to see some guys with huge monster numbers, maybe other than Colston Loveland. He's a guy who he probably, I think a lot of people would agree, he might be the leading receiver on the team.
Yeah, and that's funny too. Yeah, I was just about to mention that. We haven't even factored in Loveland and Klein kind of offset
And Edwards
too, and Donovan as well. So there's that layer of it too, where the tight ends are just as athletic as the receivers, so they're going to play a lot into that as well, which also takes off the pressure off the receivers. But you obviously want your receivers to perform. You can't just rely on Coulson Loveland and Marlon Klein to kind of bail you out at times, but they're good to have, obviously. But you want your offense to, or excuse me, you want your wide receivers to be effective, but in the same breath, both of Loveland and Klein can also factor into the receiver discussion on top of the being tight ends.
I'm in the process of writing a by the numbers article on Colston Loveland, and something interesting to me. I don't want to get into too much of it, but after week 5, the number 1 player with receptions, the number 1 player with yards, and tied with Roman Wilson's for touchdowns, Colston Loveland. He was Michigan's leading receiver after week 5. Wow. Him and Wilson both had 4 touchdowns, and Loveland, it was like a catch or 2 more and a few more yards, but Loveland was wide receiver 1 in the second half of the season. So that's a big part of it. And in terms of the wide receiver room, my gut reaction would be, this room isn't as good as we felt last year. But when you think about it, Cornelius had been a leading receiver for this team when Ronnie Bell got hurt. You know what Cornelius was, right? There's huge value in that level of experience. Roman Wilson had been flat those 2 years. I don't think people expected him to take the leap that he did. But even if he had stayed flat, 30 receptions, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, you felt good about that. Behind them, though, I mean, in hindsight, it's like, all right, but Tyler Morris had, 1 career reception? Mm-hmm. Darius Clemens, I was the president of the Darius Clemens fan club, okay? He had done nothing. He was in the same class as Amorian Walker and Tyler Morris. Is Walker coming in and Clemens leaving really that big of a difference? In terms of production, it's not. What we thought Clemens was going to be and what he was are 2 completely different things. Clemens, for me, was the size, height, weight, speed, hand. I mean, I just thought he was going to be an absolute freak, and it just never translated, right? Morgan, again, as a freshman, did anybody think Samaj Morgan's going to be making back shoulder catches for touchdowns, right? So those are guys that exceeded expectations. You could make the argument, not at the top, you don't have a CJ this year, right? But Tyler Morris, I've talked about this before, was blocked by Roman Wilson. Once Wilson went into that Z role and was playing less and less slot, that meant less plays for Tyler Morris and more for Samaj Morgan. Morris stepping into that role is going to get more opportunities. Brock, like you said, the Alabama play, anytime I can hear Fowler not say he's in the clear, but when he turns that corner, just the absolute shock in his voice at the speed that Tyler Morris had, right? Yeah. And specifically, I get so close to talking about speed and space, right? But if Alex Orji's your guy and you want to give him easy, short throws, screens, and let players make plays. Oh,
hold on, brother. Hold on, brother.
Yeah.
We just talked about it. That's just blatantly inaccurate. Sorry, Moose. I love you, Moose, but that's not true.
Let me
we literally just discussed it. Tyler Morris, you cannot say that was not explosive. What Morris did against Bama.
Should we talk about Samaj Morgan's end around against Purdue when he was running? I'm sure it was a 4.140 down the sideline. Just
eligible pass catchers for Michigan last season. Yards after catch per reception. Ready? 7.4, Donovan Edwards. 7.1, Samaj Morgan. 6.1, Tyler Morris. 5.2, Colston Loveland. 5.0, Kalel Mullings. I'm almost there. 4.6, Roman Wilson.
Wow.
Literally your top 5 yards after catch per reception, all returning.
Yeah. No, they've absolutely have explosive guys. That's totally inaccurate. You can't sit there and tell me
Whether
what Tyler Morris did against Alabama is not explosive.
whether they can get the separation,
right?
whether they can make the grabs and have a high enough catch rate, right?
That's the big thing.
Ronnie Bell, Roman Wilson found gaps, especially on scrambles, right? They found gaps in the defense. Cornelius Johnson, we've talked about the inconsistency, but man, when you needed a big play, Cornelius Johnson made a big play. That's the part we don't know.
Also, a good point by Mark. Yeah, easy to not get yak when you're in the end zone. But
I've seen this before though, and doing cut-ups with Toski, it was amazing how many times these guys on slants catch the ball and go down immediately where they catch it.
Yep.
It's been a Michigan thing for a couple of years, and it's so frustrating. But yeah, I don't know. There's still question marks. You still need guys to step up. What I like about adding Charleston, what I like about adding Walker is I don't need one or two guys. I need one of 5 guys now to potentially step up. So again, we'll see. There are so many question marks with this offense because we don't know what the offensive line is going to look like. It's all new. If it's going to be cohesive, the running game, to Josh's point, we've just assumed it's going to be elite. We'll see. New receivers, it's a lot of question marks. So continue to subscribe. If you haven't already, please do. Michigan.rivals.com, In the Den. Josh, everything we just talked about and more is intel. We're not done. I'm just capping up.
No, I know. But speaking of
yes, your giveaway.
Speaking of, if I can get it, hold on, it's an offer angle. It's in my case. I got it. Speaking of, I am giving away not this football. This is mine.
The case is nice.
But if you're a subscriber to Maize Blue Review, I'm giving away this football. It's one similar to like this, not in the case. I'm giving it away to one lucky subscriber. Also doing another one on Twitter, but I'd rather you be a subscriber on MNBR and not on Twitter. But we've posted it inside the den. All you got to do, if you are a subscriber, you haven't seen it yet, all you got to do is just reply in the thread, and you're automatically entered to win this ball. And I will announce it probably Friday, maybe later. If that depends on depends on how I feel. But yeah, so I'm giving this away. Awesome limited edition.
Hold on, with case or without case?
Without this is mine. I'm not giving you this one. This is mine. This is my case. I'm not giving you
just
that.
Clarifying.
I'm not giving you no. This is mine. I'm giving you one similar.
Put it down. You keep reflecting your screen.
All right. I will not.
You still have confetti?
I'm gonna sprinkle. No, this is mine. This is all mine.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna sprinkle the confetti inside the case.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yes.
Where the ball's sitting at the bottom. That'd be awesome.
So, if you become a subscriber to MMBR, you have a chance to win this. Nice ball, no case.
Case
so,
included.
Yes.
Terms and conditions may apply.
Yeah. You have to pay for shipping and handling. No, I'm just kidding. But
the ball won't look anything like this.
Yeah, exactly. Won't look anything I'll also throw in a certificate of authenticity in the package too, which comes with the ball. So, yeah. So yeah, as Derek says, don't just join for the prize, join for the content. We'll be happy to have you. But yeah, I'm giving another one away on Twitter, but I'm also giving it away on the message boards as well. Very so cool. If you're a subscriber, you get 2 chances instead of just 1.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you, Nico Sports, by the way.
Whew. It is impossible for us to go quicker in my mind than we can. All right. It's going to be a 2-hour show. Let's get into basketball. I say that like, it's doing basketball. I had high...
Basketball actually gives me joy to talk about now.
So that's what I was going to say. Look, I had high hopes for Dusty May. I did the thing that I said I was going to do, which was before he was hired. I'm like, I'm a little hesitant, one Final Four run, and then I let him win me over. But what we were hearing behind the scenes and then, now seeing the results of his work, it's been impressive. not only what he's done in the transfer portal, but also, nailing down Brooks, adding Coulson. George Washington III ends up kind of seeing the writing on the wall with some of the additions, and he leaves. So that leaves another spot open. I'll let you say whatever the hell you want to say about Jace Howard in that situation. That could be a second spot as well. But look, this is now – that's a good roster.
Yeah.
That's a very – this is for those of you that like Ken Pom and Torvik and things like that, with those two open spots, Burnett now back, and the question mark on the other two, but with those two open spots, Torvik ranks Michigan number 21 heading into next year.
Wow.
Right. So we're talking about a team that should be in the top half of the Big Ten and potentially playing for a 5, 6, 7 seed in the tournament. Right. Like that's again, analytically, when you're piecing a team together like this, right, the cohesiveness and them clicking, that's another piece of it, another level. But let's kind of go through this a little bit. Vlad Golden does commit. We expected him to kind of let the NBA draft window surpass, see where his standing was there. I joked with some folks like he was probably like just chilling in Serbia and just didn't give a crap about
it's not like
anybody.
He was taking any visits.
Right. It was just a matter of time. So he jumps in. Any questions about Danny Wolf and whether he was going to be a backup center or play the 4 with Golden was confirmed when Michigan basketball tweeted out the graphic of I can't remember exactly how it phrased, but it showed both of them together. That's what they're going for. That's the front court. Stretch 4 with Wolf, Golden starting, and Brock is much better at this than me. I know Dusty is more of a standard college coach, the 3 guard system. So that 3 spot, Walters can play a 3 in terms of being a wing, but obviously was he 6'8" or 6'10"? I can't remember how tall.
6'10", I think.
He's 6'10". Yeah. Right. So I've got him penciled. He's probably a guy that's going to back up Wolf. If you want to go small, maybe he's your 5. If you want to use him as a wing, you can. But it feels like Reuben Jones has got that spot. Gale's your kind of combo guard at the 2, and there's just nobody else. Trey Donaldson's going to be the guy with the ball at the point.
Yep.
But that's exciting to me. I feel like he can be – people keep asking me who I think the number 1 option is going to be. I think it might be Donaldson. We'll see. We've talked about Gale's a guy who, when not injured, is a 3-point threat and a half, right? He could have a breakout year. Reuben Jones, similar spot as well. But look, I'm looking at this roster now, and I'm like, Cheddar. I love Cheddar as a 6th man. I think his energy and just, what he can give you for 15 minutes. I love him in that role. Again, Walters, his potential. If Burnett and if you guys think Burnett's starting, go ahead. But I love him potentially coming off the bench as well. And look, they're freshmen. I don't know how much they're going to play, but the combo guard skill set. Pippen is one of the fastest risers in this class. That was a big addition. Coulson's a guy that, look, May was recruiting at FAU, but a lot of folks have come out and said, hey, look at this dude's tape. He's above his ranking. They're intrigued by him. You keep Fat Brooks. We don't know if Ruth's is going to be a piece of this yet with that 1 seat. And again, you've got potentially 2 seats open. There's still room to add contributors, but you're talking about a team that had a rotation of 8 dudes last year. Look where you are already. So open forum. Feel free to say whatever you think, but I'm impressed with Dusty May, the staff he's put together, the vibe around the program, and this roster is above my expectation with what he was handed this offseason.
Yeah, look, this team can absolutely compete for the Big Ten next year.
You're going above me.
Absolutely can compete for the Big Ten this year. I'm not going to say they're going to win it, but I think they can be competitive in the Big Ten. I mean, you just got to look at the top 6. You look at the top 6 compared to what Michigan did last year, where they dropped a lot of games that they should have won.
Yes.
That even that bad, poorly managed team, and they were kind of, fringy being, kind of somewhat, if they would have strung
how many
couple of wins.
Brock, do you remember how many games was it? First half lead, lost, didn't cover the spread in the second half. Do you remember how many it was? It was double digits, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
I remember 19 of the losses they didn't cover the spread, but I can't remember how many were first half leads.
It was quite a few.
Unreal. Sorry, Josh.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I just you look at the top 6 of what
Good
this
Lord.
team is.
Yes. It's that simple.
You look at the top 6 and compare it to last year. I mean, you're automatically seeing a huge stride. So I can't see why Michigan and the Big Ten obviously is done their fair share of loading up, but I don't see a team where like a Purdue where that can run away with the conference next year. And again, I'm not saying Michigan is going to win the Big Ten next year, but this is a tournament team. This is absolutely a tournament team, and there's nothing you can say that'll convince me otherwise. You know, the right amount of experience. They've got depth now, which, whew, breaking news, you can have depth
Well,
on
and
your
to the players' credit, I mean, Doug couldn't play 40 minutes every game.
right.
Right. So them burning out at the end of second halves and losing games the way they did over and over again. I don't want to pick on the players. What else were they supposed to do?
Right.
Yeah.
I really like that front line off the bench too. That Cheddar Walters and Burnett. I mean, those 3 experienced guys off the bench going to be really good for them. You know, the guard spot is where it kind of gets interesting because obviously we're not factoring in the open spot that they have now and who they might get.
Right.
But if this is your team right now with one open scholarship spot, you know, Pippen could absolutely play next year. I think he could play a little bit of spot play. I really like the competition that Pippen played against, and I think he could definitely have some sort of smaller role over guys like Coulson and Brooks. And I think Brooks has been overlooked a little bit, but you know that's just what it is. But man, yeah, there's just a lot to like, and I'll be really curious to see how they factor in that open spot. I mean, you could really, I mean, if you factor in and add a guy like you know, Kunai Ruths, I mean, yes, and it's not Connie, it's not Connie, it's Kune Ruths. I've just learned that Friday. I blew my mind. I was like, what? Kune. Anyway, I'm not expecting it, but at this point, I mean, you're talking about Ruths. He hasn't visited anywhere other than Florida State and Michigan, obviously being involved because he was already visited and committed. He hasn't really, as far as I'm aware, he hasn't visited anywhere. I mean, I would be shocked if he doesn't get involved in this class. I mean, I would think like if I was Dusty, I'd be like, yeah, come on down, you know, whenever you want, come on down to Roots. So, and obviously we got to think about what is going to happen with Jace Howard and his 5th year. But you know, another addition. I mean, you could probably add. I mean, I could see them adding another wing type, and if they added another wing type, man, they're looking really good.
And if Jace is my 12th man and not my 7th,
yeah.
Go ahead, Brock. Sorry.
No, that's a whole lot better. But I think the thing that excites me most about looking at Trevor, the other screen that you had, the one there with the projected starters, you start with 2 7-footers on the court right away. If that's your starting lineup for the first game, you got 2 7-footers on the court. Then what happens is one of them gets tired, whether it's Wolf or Golden, whoever it is. Okay, you go to the bench, and Cheddar or Walters, 6'8", I think Cheddar is 6'8" or 6'9", or Walters 6'10", comes in, fills that spot. You still have a 7-footer on the court, and you've got a guy who's 6'8" plus. Then the other one, Golden or Wolf, gets tired. You bring the other 7-footer back in, and you just rotate these guys. I think Dusty May is going to do. I don't have any inside information, but I believe he's trying here to have at least one 7-footer on the court at all times.
Wow.
Whether it's Golden, whether it's Wolf, or whether it's, you know, like I mentioned, starting the game with 2 7-footers, or whether it's Golden and Walters, Golden and Cheddar, or Wolf and Cheddar, or Wolf and Walters. I believe he's going to do his best to have at least one 7-footer in there patrolling the paint defensively at all times. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of talk about the guards because Dusty May likes his 3-guard lineups. But I think that's the key for Michigan next season. And obviously the roster is not finalized, but I do think it's going to center around Golden and Wolf, and then obviously Cheddar and Walters coming in to spell them, giving them some resting minutes. And we even saw Michigan tweet it out yesterday or 2 days ago. The new front court is here, right?
Yeah.
Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf. And so
Yep.
I do think that's going to be maybe not the focal point of the offense, but I do think it's going to be an underrated part and something that's going to be very important for this team. But yeah, I agree with whoever said it earlier. Maybe it was Steve, but I think Roddy Gale is going to, if I had to bet on one person to lead this team in scoring next year, it would be Roddy Gale. I think he's a stud. And like you guys have mentioned, he struggles with staying healthy sometimes, but he can shoot the lights out.
Yeah, he shot above 40% from deep in his freshman year, and then he had a wrist injury last year that impacted him. He's literally a 50, 40, 80 guy potential. I mean, it's crazy. And again, to your point, I agree with you, the big men. But Wolf, stretch four, can shoot threes.
Yep. Jones
can shoot threes. Walters can shoot threes. Gale could be a three-point assassin, right? Jones kind of reminds me of oh my God, I shouldn't have brought it up because I'm not getting his name, but Donaldson can shoot threes, right? So and Burnett maybe in a different role, right? So probably average fan brought it up. The defense is going to be interesting. I agree with that. To see how they line up and play defensively, but I like the front court and I like the shooting potential.
And the good thing about, I know
Shardy Brown, damn it, there it is.
That's actually a good comparison. I know your average fan brought this up. What it's going to look like defensively.
Yeah.
Golden and Wolf aren't like, they're not like statues either. They're athletic big men. They're not just going to sit there and just plod along. They're going to be able to keep up defensively. So that's kind of the good thing of them being so athletic but big, is that they're not just going to have to like sit there and just kind of like just around the basket. So they're going to be mobile. I mean, again, I'm not going to like sit here and say like this is like an elite defensive combo. We'll obviously have to see how that works out, especially
Did you see the defense last year?
Well, I mean, anything
it's going to be better.
Well, right, exactly. Anything is an improvement, but if you want to be elite and competitive nationally, you're going to have to take more strides than just better. But yeah, I know we'll kind of see how things work out, especially when other teams go small, because you'll probably start to see that more with Golden Wolf out there too. So, I think the way Michigan's structured just right now, it just bodes just 10 times better than what they were last year. I mean, just from just things that make sense and from a roster structure standpoint, I mean, they're miles ahead of where they were last year, and they have the opportunity to add a couple more guys that can contribute. So,
and
see how it factors in.
And I'm not saying I think this team is a national championship contender, but from a roster construction standpoint, the Big Ten hasn't won a national championship in basketball since 2000. Izzo's Michigan State team, right? And it was kind of the same problem with football for a while, because you kind of had to build a team to win the Big Ten that might not necessarily be perfect for the tournament, right? And I think what Dusty has done here is, look, I've got the big men that I need in the Big Ten, but I know you need guard play to go far in the tournament. And he's done it at FAU. Got into a Final Four, right? And what intrigues me too, and the reason I brought this up earlier, I didn't mean to mess with you, Brock, but moving forward, this isn't a bunch of one-year guys. I screwed up, and I see I don't have Coulson following along, so you'll have to plug him in for the next few years as well. I messed up there. But from a transfer standpoint, Golden's going to be done after this year, okay? Burnett technically has another year left. Cheddar can come back. Wolf has another year left. Donaldson has another year left. Gale, Walters has 2 more years left, right? I'm not saying they're going to be here the whole time. You don't know that. But when they were doing the coaching search, Kansas State. What's his name? Why can't I think of his name?
Jerome
Tang.
Tang.
Yeah. When he came up, I was like, look, they had that transfer portal year, Elite Eight, and then he was completely retooling again the next year. Right? I don't want that. I don't want to have to try and retool every single year. Michigan has to find a way in basketball to be similar to what they are in football, which is a little bit different, right, in the transfer portal NIL era, and kind of walk that line. And Dusty May appears to be doing that. It's going to be interesting to see moving forward his balance of transfer portal, guys he can get from the portal that stay for a year or two, what he targets from a high school and recruiting standpoint. But I'm not only excited about this year, I'm excited about future too. It's man. And he cast a wide net. Trying to cover this was a nightmare. I couldn't keep up with the names. It was crazy the amount of people they were talking to and how hard he was working. And this dude's meeting with business leaders, meeting with the collectives, bridging those gaps that maybe weren't in the past, going and talking to the Maize Rage and fraternities, right, about packing Chrysler and trying to get fan support up. The dude's just been absolutely grinding, man. Yep. And to Josh's point, it's just good to be excited. Mm-hmm. It's good to be excited. And look, we beat this drum a bunch when he was let go too. I wanted things to work with Juwan Howard. And sometimes in the same way with Jim Harbaugh, what happened in 2020 and the narrative around that, if they win in 2016, if JT's rolled short, maybe it doesn't take Harbaugh another 5 years, right? Like these little things. And the trajectory was the trajectory. It just was what it was, right? Juwan was at graduation this weekend, and incredibly, his wife Jeannie posted the video, him embracing his players and just how proud he was. Look, the dude loved his players and they loved him too. But for this type of moves, this type of transition to happen, I think a change had to happen. And we're just seeing it now with Dusty. I think it's that simple. So, God, we got a long way till basketball season, though.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Still stuff to figure out, too.
It's just, again, this new world of, it's going to be interesting. They have that one spot. Hell, he's already ahead of the game in that. They had 2 empty seats last year.
Yep.
Just crazy. Take a MAC guy. Take anyone. Yep. Why did you go into the year with 2 empty seats when you had a bunch of question marks? Crazy. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that empty spot. I'm with you, Josh. I think that's probably saved for Ruth's currently. I am not going to. What was his first name?
Kunai. Kune.
Okay.
Kune.
I don't mean to make. I'm making fun of myself, by the way, guys, when it comes to that. I think it's embarrassing, and I don't mean to be rude when I butcher people's names, but I've been calling him Connie or Kahani. I don't know what I've been calling him.
I thought it was Connie. I
thought it was Connie, too.
I laughed at when I said Connie, and they're in a phone
Kune. Okay. I hope they get him. I thought that was a great get by Juwan.
They should. I mean, we'll see. The thing is, like, just pay attention to the visits, and where are the visits?
Right.
They're. I mean, unless he's taking them quietly. I mean, usually this stuff's pretty covered.
So, for people that are super observant too, Dusty went to Florida Atlantic for their graduation with some former players, including Vlad Golden, not including Mr. Davis. So I still feel like he's doing a month of NBA private workouts.
Right.
It feels like following Cal to Arkansas is almost a backup plan for him at this point. That dude really wants to go to the NBA.
Yep.
It just is what it is with John L. Davis. Again, would have loved to see him come here. Obviously a fit, but yeah, you got Roos and then another experienced guard or a wing or something. It'll be interesting to see what he does through those last 2 spots. But again, it's just good to feel good. Kind of the same thing with football, like we talked about. You come out of the national championship and coaching staff is getting picked off and it's like, oh, what's going on? And then, hey, the transfer portal exodus, not too bad. Oh my God, recruiting. How about that Nate Marshall pickup? Right. Avery Gatch. Got that one right. It's not Gatch, it's Gatch.
Gatch.
Both his parents, Michigan State grads. His dad's a legacy. You know, like it's a good pickup. They're going to need a busy summer, that's for sure. This football staff is. I mean, but given how much relationships matter in that full transition, we'll see. But again, just keeping props to Champion Circle again as well. The premier, or I can't remember what word they like to use, but the Michigan Associated Collective. They signed 30 players on this roster, but Will Johnson, Donovan Edwards, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, these guys are still at Michigan because of them, and frankly, fans too, and the contributions that they've made. So,
but I was told, oh, never mind.
Yeah, while we're on it, Buckeye Poop, that account, don't interact with them. He only exists to be trolling Michigan fans. He has been completely cast off from Ohio State. I'm not going to say his name, but feel free to figure it out and Google it and what he did. I'm going to swear, fucking hypocrite. Like, ignore that account. Absolute trash, man. Don't fall for the trolling and what these people do to Michigan fans. It's stupid. You want a natty. Be happy. All right.
Yeah, it's not the only one either, but
it's just crazy.
I'll keep that to myself.
It's just crazy. All right. Loaded show indeed, 2 hours. My God. But once again, really high viewership throughout the show. We're finishing with a high number of folks that have stuck with us this entire time. The comments slowed down a little bit at the end. That might be basketball related. We'll see. But as always, we appreciate you guys joining us, and sorry for punking you last week. We try to be here Sunday live at 8. Obviously, if you're subscribed and get that notification bell, you'll know when we go live, or when we go live and don't show up for 5 minutes like a few days ago. Whoops a daisy. But yeah, make sure you're liking, subscribing, and comment too. If you weren't a part of the live comments and you're watching the show back, jump in the comments section, be a part of the conversation there as well. And then, of course, head over to michigan.rivals.com, where all of our content is, premium, subscribe or not, and then the Den, the message board, community. What?
He's done receiving NIL. He's no longer in college.
No, I'm ineligible for NIL funds.
Yeah.
Just like Caitlin Clark, you're going to make less money now.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous take.
That's so stupid. That's such a dumb take.
And he's tripled. The Nike deal comes out, $28 million, and he still doubles down on it.
Good for her. That's a good gig if you can get it.
Selling out preseason games.
Hey, she had a good first game too. Good, like it's weird. Like it's weird how sometimes it works out when you're a really, really good college player, and then sometimes you're just a really bad pro for whatever reasons. I mean, that's a good. Could you imagine the takes that would have came out if she would have struggled her first preseason game? Preseason, it would have been awful.
You know what's funny about
unbearable.
Her? There's not, other than maybe the like, okay, that's enough, right? There was a moment where it's like, okay, I like her. I think it's a good story. I've heard enough though. There was so much coverage. Other than that, I feel like the only hate for her comes from other players.
Yeah, the Taurasi thing I did not understand.
It's so weird.
That was weird.
It's so weird.
Yeah, that's it's not. That's not the only. It does it. They do it in the NBA. It happens in the NFL too. Like weird, like old people gatekeeping their sport. Like they want it to be 20, 30 years ago. It's like, yeah, do you not want your game to evolve? Like if the NBA did not evolve in 30 years, it wouldn't even be a product right now. So. You know, I don't understand how some people gatekeep their sports like that.
I do understand maybe some frustration to the point of like they've been doing it for a decade and haven't gotten the attention or whatever, but she's bringing it with her. You're going to get it too.
All right.
Like when Tiger Woods started blowing up at the start of his golfing career, the pro golfers that like you're going to make, and you did make significantly more money because of him.
Oh yeah.
They're moving all of her games into larger arenas and stuff. Like she's going to be good for all of you. That's going to trickle down.
Yep.
You know, so anyway,
absolutely.
I don't even know how we got on that topic, but anyway, yeah, the WNBA was on the brink. She's pretty much saving it. That's a good point.
Yeah. Their new media deal, you're going to see it significantly raise because of all of this.
Yeah. The NBA goes in the red every year.
Yep.
with the WNBA.
Yeah, no, yeah. The NBA basically funds it. I mean, that's just
well,
call
beyond funds it. They lose money every
Yeah.
year
Yeah,
to keep it going. So yeah, if she turns that into a profitable enterprise, I'm like, take that. Why wouldn't you take that?
yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then Paige Buckers, all these guys coming up next. Sorry, all these other people coming up next. But anyway, off topic. So subscribe, YouTube channel, let over to MichiganRivals.com. Jump in the den. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. We have the accounts posted. Go ahead and send Brock his congratulations. Jokes about him being locked in the closet or his haircuts or whatever else has been the running gag. We haven't talked about any good movies Brock hasn't watched recently. That's always a good one. Good stuff. All right, guys. Appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next week on Hail to the Podcast.